Tánaiste, as somebody who has repeatedly called for testing at our airports, going right back to last April, I think, I first raised it with yourself and Minister Harris at the time when he was Minister for Health. I welcome the fact that an airport testing regime has been introduced, but I worry that the particular testing regime which has been introduced may not achieve what it sets out to achieve, and in fact may have some unintended consequences. What is happening at our ports? Is there a similar testing regime at our ports, and in particular in airports in Northern Ireland? And if I'm aware that Belfast International Airport is testing outgoing passengers, offering testing for outgoing passengers, but I'm not aware of a similar requirement for incoming passengers. And if there isn't a similar regime for ports and airports in Northern Ireland, and indeed ports here, well then we're effectively closing the windows to keep the cold out while leaving the front door open, because we do have an open border with Northern Ireland, and there has to be a degree of coordination in that regard.
Anyone entering the state through our ports or airports will have to have had a PCR test with a negative result within 72 hours of their arrival, and the only exception that's being made is for people who are transport workers in that supply chain, if you like, the hauliers, the cabin crews, the pilots, for obvious reasons. People often ask why this wasn't done before. There are many reasons, not least the availability of PCR testing months ago, but the biggest problem with it, of course, is Northern Ireland, is the fact that you can fly into Belfast, for example, from Britain, and perhaps even other parts of the world through Britain without having a negative PCR test. And I do think this is something we're engaging with the Northern Ireland Executive on, but is an area where I think Sinn Féin in particular can be helpful. I often hear Deputy Doherty, Deputy MacDonald on the TV, on the radio, speaking as though Sinn Féin is not in government anywhere on this island. They are in Northern Ireland, they co-chair the executive in Northern Ireland, and I think they have a responsibility to do the one useful thing they could do to help us battle this pandemic, and that is to convince their coalition partners, to convince the Northern Ireland executive to bring in the same rules for people entering Northern Ireland from Britain and elsewhere